Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Brash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is The Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
Been a while since I've walked out of a movie. Sausage Party. And already I can see people, they're hammering their opinions into the comment section. You're just getting old, man. What, did you totally miss the brilliant subtext? The social commentary about God and humans and religious thinking and superstition and all those things. Yeah, I totally get it. It was in your face. I get it. I saw some articles written about it in positive ways. I think the American Humanist Association posted something positive about the film. I saw Friendly Atheist had something. I guess everybody enjoyed it but me. Not that I don't think we should see satirical works that lampoon the allegiance to the idea of gods, because I really do. I think those things are important and necessary. The problem is that it's supposed to be a comedy. 30 minutes into the movie, I looked at Natalie and I said, "Have you laughed once?" And she looked at me and said, "Nope." We grabbed our popcorn, we threw it in the trash can, we left the theater, and we went to go have sushi, and then I went home to watch the Olympics. And it's not just because I'm getting old. Now, the Seth Rogen sort of flavor of comedy will resonate more with some than with others. I get it. But there have been some raunchy movies out there that are just laugh out loud hysterical. I mean, you can be dirty, but you can also be clever and interesting. And the secret to humor is surprise, right? You're surprised by it. You don't see all the jokes coming. I enjoyed Seth Rogen in Neighbors. I enjoyed Seth Rogen in even The 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up and a few others. Had a good time, right? So it's not just that I'm old. I was just sitting in the theater thinking, oh, look, it's the sausage who can't wait to get into the bun. Oh, look, it's the douche, and guess what he acts like? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's dirty funny, and then there's just dirty dirty. There's just lazy locker room, junior high, base level, blah. And that's kind of where I was. At least from my perspective. I'm going to take a lot of shit for it, I'm sure. So do I want to sit in the theater for another hour, or do I want to just go and get on with the rest of my evening? And so I just left. Went home to watch the Olympics. I've been addicted, actually, to the Olympics. I don't follow sports a whole lot in the rest of my life. You know, I follow some tennis because I'm a tennis player. Roger Federer, my favorite athlete of any sport, anywhere, period. The guy is nearing the end of his career, but he's still nearly a god. Okay, he's awesome. And if Roger's on, the whole house stops. We all watch tennis. Andy Murray, used to be a big fan of Maria Sharapova before she was suspended for a couple of years. They found a banned substance in her blood. She protested, long story. Anyway, she's out until she's 30. I don't know if she's going to come back to the sport. Used to watch a little golf. I watched the Super Bowl. No idea who the players are, who the teams are, what the histories are, what the statistics are. I haven't followed it. Mostly I'm like, well, who's the underdog? Okay, that's my team. And we fire up the grill and we crank up the TV and we plop on the couch and enjoy the Super Bowl. That's how I watch sports. But I love the Olympics. And I watch sports that wouldn't begin to interest me in the rest of my life throughout the rest of the year. Have you found this is the case for you? Sort of like Winter Olympics. I love curling. I love it. I don't understand it. I don't totally understand it. I may get the basics of it. I'm fascinated by Winter Olympic curling. I cannot stop watching it. I cannot wait. When's the next Winter Olympics? Is it this year or do we wait 2 more years? How's that work? How long do I have to wait for curling? But as far as the summer sports, track and field, right? I admire the athleticism. I never watch track and field, do you? Unless it's the Olympics. I mean, some of this is about nations competing against nations, and that adds a level of drama. I think that's probably part of the appeal. I think part of the appeal as well is knowing a lot of the background, the stories behind the people who are competing. And this is something that NBC has done pretty well, I think. You know, if there's no story, otherwise you're just looking at athletes with a flag and a name tag, and that's all you know, until you get the background. And then you kind of get sucked into their story. Who they are, where they came from, what they overcame, what their families sacrificed. And you start to see them in a different light, sort of a richer light, and it brings the event into a whole new dimension. Just a few nights ago, watched Usain Bolt run the 100 meter for the gold against Justin Gatlin of the USA. It was amazing. It was 9 seconds. 9 seconds long, and I'm glued to the television. Now, I know almost nothing about Usain Bolt. Really, I don't follow track and field. I don't know. I just know he's a legend and all that stuff. I've just seen the headlines. Fastest man alive. He ran the 100 in Beijing in 2008 at 9.58, which is, as I understand it, a world record that still stands today. 9.58 seconds for 100 meters. Fast. Usain Bolt, the highest paid athlete in track and field, period. They call him the Lightning Bolt. Hails from Jamaica, a nation that has the population of the state of Kansas. And when Usain Bolt runs a race, history is made. I mean, that's exciting stuff, right? I saw the 100 meter for the gold. Not following track and field, we're glued to the television as he beats Justin Gatlin by what? 8/100ths of a second to win the gold. His third, which is history making. Then you hear Gatlin's story. That adds a whole other layer to things. Guys like the champion sprinter, he was banned on 2 separate occasions for illegal substances. He contested both. I think one was reversed on appeal. He returned to the sport 6 years ago, and he's chasing the legacy, and he's chasing these track times, these world record times of Usain Bolt, and he has this sort of outsider thing going on, the underdog that might possibly knock down the legend. That's how they set it up. This is the stuff that great storytelling is made of. It's the kind of thing that makes 100 meters of track and a starting gun, and it transforms it into something compelling and entertaining. And it's this kind of thrill ride that we can all be on. Watching Simone Biles, Gabby Douglas, Ali Raisman, the rest of the U.S. women's gymnastic team. I mean, they're superlative athletes. Did you see the video that compared Olympic gymnastics of today to Olympic gymnastics in the 50s? It's a side-by-side comparison. And in the 50s, it looked like they were sleepwalking. Looks like they were playing the video in slow motion. Now, that's a great story of how the Olympics have changed and improved and evolved over the past 60 or so years. I was watching Gabby Douglas take all the heat she's taken. She was huge in 2012, all-around gold medalist, didn't qualify for the all-around this year. She's taken a bunch of heat because during the gold medal ceremony, or the medal ceremony, when they played the national anthem, she didn't put her hand over her heart. And of course, social media just goes ballistic. They call Gabby Douglas, of all people, unpatriotic, because she didn't put her hand over her heart as the anthem played. These armchair patriots, apparently not realizing that a lifetime of commitment and the highest honors at the top of her sport as a United States athlete should be enough. Now, she lives in a nation where she has the freedom to choose whether or not she wants to put her hand over her heart during the national anthem. You know, give me a break. This is lapel pin patriotism. You know, this kind of empty, vacuous, hand over your heart, symbolism over substance, love of country that almost becomes a kind of blind nationalism. And you've heard me speak in the past about patriotism and my perspective. I don't have a problem at all with people loving their country. I don't have a problem at all with people who are patriotic. I do have a problem with blind nationalism. Us over you at all costs. We're better than you. We're superior to you. We're all we care about. Those types of attitudes, they're just hugely destructive. But I think, and I'm going to take heat for this as well, I think patriotism can be a positive thing. It can be a constructive thing if framed correctly. You can be a person who loves your country. I also think that true patriots criticize. They don't sit back and just defer and say, we're number one. They wave the big foam finger in the air and say, hey, we're number one, and that's it. I mean, a true patriot, if you really love something or someone, you have to be prepared to go in and address the problems and the challenges so that you can fix those and make it better. A true patriot says, this is wrong, this is immoral, this should be fixed, this should be stopped, whether we're talking about war or whatever. A true patriot will criticize when the time is right. Became a huge fan of Kerri Walsh-Jennings and April Ross. You've been watching women's beach volleyball? Bad ass, these two. And the stories behind the two have, I think, played into why the matches are so entertaining. Jennings is 38 years old, right? That's aged for an Olympic athlete. She won the gold 3 other times, 2004, 2008, 2012. She won with another partner, Misty May Trainer. Instead of retiring when her partner decided to retire, Kerri Walsh-Jennings said, let's just keep playing. Let's go for a 4th. So she asked April Ross, who's on the team she beat back in London in 2012, hey, why don't you and I go get the gold in Rio? This woman has dislocated her right shoulder 2 times. She played part of last summer competitively with one arm. Took 6 months off to recover from surgery, the 5th surgery she's had on that shoulder, and qualifies for the Olympics. She's in the semifinals today. That is a great story. It's a great story. It adds a whole nother level to what you're watching on screen. It's interesting when you bring up the subject of beach volleyball. How many people automatically want to start talking about the bikinis? This is the first thing that comes to their mind. Oh my God, have you seen the bikinis? They're so skimpy. I will leave it to others to chew each other to ribbons over whether or not they are sexist or inappropriate. I read an article in USA Today that revealed that it used to be a requirement. The bikinis were required, and the guidelines changed 4 years ago. Now, they can wear pretty much whatever they want. They can wear shorts or long sleeves and tank tops. Did you see the Egyptian team? They wore long pants, long sleeves, in 100-degree heat. Go figure. And Kerri Walsh-Jennings and April Ross choose to wear the 2-piece bikinis. They choose to wear those. They actually helped to design them. They say they like the 2-piece. There's less places for the stand to hide. And for them, it's the preferable, quote-unquote, uniform in 100-degree heat. It's what they want to wear to play beach volleyball. Fine. Why don't we take the time that everybody's busy wailing and freaking out and look at 2 superlative athletes at the top of their game who are kicking wholesale ass on the world stage. They are amazing to watch. Olympic badminton. It's awesome. Not as awesome as curling, but it's awesome. We had a discussion in my house about whether or not badminton is a sport or a game. Badminton, is it a game or a sport? Does it belong in the Olympics? I say it's totally a sport. It's crazy. Have you been watching it? I don't think it's part of the main NBC lineup. I don't think they show it on the major networks. You have to go to like CNBC or MSNBC or some of the offshoots of NBC. But if nothing else, just YouTube. Olympic badminton. It's crazy. Virginia Thrasher of the United States wins the gold medal in the women's 10-meter air rifle competition. Wait, they have air rifles in the Olympics? Like pellet guns? That's in the Olympics? Turns out, yeah. And you should totally check out the guns themselves. They look like various pieces of pipe were kind of welded together in shop class. They're bizarre, some of the strangest looking guns I've seen. And part of an Olympic sport that I never knew existed. And we won the gold? Awesome. Other wacky Olympic games we don't see in prime time. Trampoline. There's Olympic trampoline. It's happening in Rio this summer. Race walking. You're racing, yet you are walking. Like those little hip wiggler power walks that you see people doing at the park. That's what it is. That's an Olympic sport. One foot has to remain on the ground at all times, or you're out. The Huffington Post did this story called 11 Weird Sports That Were Actually in the Olympics. Those included, back in 1900, no kidding, live pigeon shooting. They had competitors shooting at live birds. That lasted 1 year. And then they replaced the real pigeons with clay targets. Tug of war was a sport in 5 different Olympics. Plunging for distance. Divers just swim under the water as deep as they can. World record, 62 feet, 6 inches. And it's a record that's easy to defend, an Olympic record, because the sport only happened once. They only did it 1 year, 1904. How about Olympic croquet? You know the sport you play in your yard? Or is it a sport or is it a game? I think it's a game. It happened. I don't know about you. I could never play croquet really by the rules. I couldn't stick to the rules. And we'd start playing by the rules. We'd play fairly. For some reason, there's just too much temptation with big mallet and all those balls laying around. You just wanted to whack somebody else's croquet ball across the street and into the next zip code. It's just too much temptation. Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time ever in the history of ever. 23 gold medals. There's an interesting story that goes far beyond just the race times. Beyond the statistics, I found myself sort of chuckling at all the Michael Phelps marijuana memes that were floating around the internet. Did you see some of those? Marijuana will ruin your life. Just ask this guy. And then they post a photo of Michael Phelps, who admitted to smoking weed. He called them youthful indiscretions. And people are saying, oh, yeah, you smoke weed. Look out. You might just end up like Michael Phelps. I found out that medalists in the Olympics have to pay taxes on their medals. And they also get cash, and I think they're taxed on those. Right? If you're an American athlete and you win, you get the medal, but you also get money. They give you $25,000 for the gold medal, $15,000 for silver, $10,000 for bronze. So depending on where you are income bracket-wise, I think the highest income brackets might pay upwards of almost $10,000 in taxes on a $25,000 gold medal. Of course, if you're in that upper income, it's probably not going to make too much difference. And I don't think they care a whole lot. It's still money that's being gifted to them. Apparently, also, as the medals themselves, they're gold and silver and bronze. That's precious metals. Those are taxed. Gold, I think, is around $600, $300 for silver, just about nothing for bronze. There was an article about all this in USA Today a few years ago. I think about it and I think, it's the Olympics. They're representing the country. Yeah, you could give them an exemption, Come on. $25,000 prize and you tax them for $5,000 to $9,000 of it. Come on. They're representing us internationally. Give them a break. That's just kind of my take. Back to Michael Phelps, though. Of course, most of us have already had these discussions about those big whelps all over his body before he would race. And many of the other swimmers had them as well. Many of us, especially those of us who've studied a lot of woo and alternative medicine, those types of things, we recognized that somebody has been cupping. Cupping is awesome. It's an ancient Chinese healing practice that, if you'll notice, nobody on the Chinese team had been using. Only the Americans. Only Americans and I think a few other nations. So this ancient Chinese secret was not being used by the Chinese. I think that's very telling. If you don't know what it is, you should just YouTube it or Google it. But essentially, they take these cups and they place them over affected areas, and then they create a vacuum and they just give you the world's largest hickey. And people like Michael Phelps say, it draws blood to these areas, it reduces soreness, it accelerates healing, and skeptics say that's just a bunch of crap. Michael Shermer said something to this effect on Twitter last week. And opinions are all over the place about the benefits of cupping, even if it is just a placebo effect you're getting. The argument is, hey, you know what? Even if it's bullshit, even if it's like wearing a certain color underwear or, wearing your grandmother's favorite necklace, even if there's no evidence that whatever you're doing has a power of its own, the power that we give it psychologically might have merit, right? Whatever works is the idea. Pointing to the sky and thanking Jesus for giving you the ability to run makes you more confident and happy as you run. Hey, what's the problem? It's an article in The Atlantic pinned on the 9th of August by James Hamblin. The headline said, "Please, Michael Phelps, please stop cupping." In the article, Hamblin says this: the process involves small glass cups that look like shot glasses with nipples being placed over his skin, and a practitioner then inducing a vacuum inside the cup by heating the air. That suction pulls his skin up into the cup, breaking capillaries and causing blood to pool and stagnate, creating a bruise. That's why the process is known as fire cupping and the sucking method. A not recommended Google image search will show you some horrendously purple injuries. Phelps's are relatively minor. He and some other athletes undertake them because they believe this process helps muscles to heal more quickly by encouraging blood flow. A bruise is a blood clot, though, and clotted blood is definitionally not flowing. So in terms of role model behavior, cupping may be more deleterious than a grainy bong photo because it invites people to distrust science. Cupping has not been studied in large controlled clinical trials, by the way. And we've seen no hard evidence that cupping actually works. So again, we're back to this. Is it a psychological benefit? Does it make him think he's going to win? That he has less pain, that he has better circulation? And does that mindset have benefit? The Catholic News Agency did a proud story about two, quote, game-changing Olympians who are serious Catholics. That's what they called them in the article. Katie Ledecky in swimming and Simone Biles, the gymnast, who had a rough night last night, by the way. Had some trouble on the balance beam and lost the gold medal. The Catholic Standard posted this article on July the 28th, revealing that Ledecky's Catholic faith is apparently what keeps things in perspective for her. One paragraph asked her the question, how has what you learned in Catholic schools helped you in your swimming career? I mean, how much of a stretch is that? Part of the reason that Katie Ledecky is a world record-breaking Olympic champion gold medal swimmer is because she went to Catholic school. Does anybody buy that? Ledecky does a Hail Mary before every race. She does one before every time she goes out to race, and she says that this calms her. So again, we find ourselves kind of presented with an almost certain placebo effect, this self-generated calming ritual in which the subject kind of talks herself into a place of centeredness and focus. And many people stop to say, come on, it works, right? It seems to work. What's the harm? What's the problem? This is, I think, a legitimate question. If you and I are in the Olympics and our thing was chanting to Thor before the race, and this was for us an effective calming exercise before a high-stress, high-focus race, would there be merit to chanting in Thor's name? You know what makes me really crazy? I haven't really pinned down yet, I think, why it makes me so crazy. But it does. When athletes commit themselves, in the most extreme sense, a lifetime of training and learning and sharpening themselves into Olympics-worthy greatness, countless dollars, countless hours invested by themselves, by their families, by tons of other people. All of this toward the goal of achieving excellence. And then they go out and they win the Olympic medal. They thank God. You see David Badaya and Steele Johnson, precision Olympic divers, just next level athletes who train their whole lives to win the gold. But on their social media page, they give all the glory to Christ. Quote, "We can't take the credit for this, God be the glory." On the surface, this looks like a generous gesture. It's hard to criticize such a gesture. Right? They're trying to put focus elsewhere. They're trying to be generous. They're trying to not put the spotlight on themselves. They want to deflect and genuflect and whatever. All right? To God be the glory. We talked about Usain Bolt a few minutes ago. He thinks God's the reason that he wasn't injured before the Olympics. He didn't have any injuries. That must be God. God kept him injury-free. Sprinter English Gardner, a superlative athlete, an amazing Olympic athlete, thanked Jesus when she finished in first place in the 100-meter dash in the track and field trials. Jesus apparently helped to propel her down the field. To Jesus be the glory. Now, this is where my religious friends and family members are convinced that I'm the asshole. Not because I don't see at least a few of these athletes genuinely trying to be humble and to project gratitude, because I think that many of them do. They're trying to be good stewards of their talent, and because of family and culture, because of how they've been taught to speak and think, this is sort of how that manifests itself. I don't think everybody's theologically masturbating out there when they pitch their Jesus. They're not necessarily always trying to enhance their own image by preaching on international television. I think some people are genuinely humble, or they're trying to express that in the way they've been trained to do so. And I'm not angry or I'm not frustrated because they might get inspiration from their own ideas of God. I'm not trying to piss on everybody's cornflakes. It's just that in my own head, I cannot reconcile it. I cannot make sense of it. Now, these athletes, in ways that you and I may never comprehend, unless we were committing ourselves in that way and could relate personally, we'll never really be able to comprehend the sacrifices they made. The amount of work that went into this, the amount of commitment. I mean, their arrival at the Rio Olympics is the result of time and talent and commitment and sweat and pain and who knows how much money. Thousands of factors playing into it over the course of how many years? All they needed was Jesus' power to win the 100 meter injury-free. They wouldn't need to really train for the 100 meters, right? Wouldn't that be more of a miracle? Right? A guy who's never set foot on the track will now break Usain Bolt's world record for the 100 meter, thanks to Jesus. Can you imagine the world response, the global response? Talk about demonstrating a true miracle and putting the focus on Jesus, drawing attention to the validity of Jesus. That would certainly do it. Hell, let me go out there and run the 100 meter in 9 point whatever for the world record, and I'll say Jesus did it, and watch the planet come to a halt. Watch social media go insane. Watch the articles come out in the New York Times and in the LA Times and in every publication globally. They'll say this can't be explained naturally. It must be supernatural. He says it's Jesus. Maybe we should give this Jesus guy another look. I mean, how do you differentiate the gold medal from someone who was a non-believer in Jesus or a believer in another deity? What happens if one of the Muslim athletes wins and they give credit to Allah? What happens if a Hindu goes out and wins and gives credit to any one of the thousands of Hindu gods? And how do you tell the difference between that and someone who just goes out and busts ass and trains and has a shit ton of talent and just is faster than everybody else? You can't tell the difference from one to the other. You draw a circle around that. You draw attention to that. You mention this at parties, and people say, you are such an asshole. And this second point, this is where people just hang up on me. This is where they shake their head and they just tap out and say I'm a despicable person. I don't think I'm a despicable person. I think I'm a good person. I think I'm a sensible person. I think I'm a moral person, right? And I am troubled at the idea that Jesus is out there using his divine power to get English Gardner into the Olympics and help Usain Bolt run a little faster, injury-free, and or to help a couple of Olympic divers score a near-perfect score for the gold. I'm troubled by the idea that Jesus would use his divine power to do that. Meanwhile, in Kansas City, just a few days ago, there was an 11-year-old boy who was decapitated in an accident on the Schlitterbahn water slide. No divine intervention for Caleb Schwab. None. Whose life and imminent death would have been foreseen by a God that knows everything, past, present, and future, and could have been prevented by a God that's omnipotent. God knows everything, God can do anything, and yet God, Jesus, whoever, apparently busy helping athletes run and swim and dive and hit the ball just a little bit better at the 2016 Olympics. You draw a circle around this and you say, this seems like a priority problem, doesn't it, for a moral deity? Innocent children being killed over here, and you got so-and-so on the track who's busy genuflecting and throwing their eyes and hands to the sky and thanking Jesus and wailing about the goodness of God. It makes no sense. I have never understood the protest about these types of questions. I mean, I understand them. The questions cause those who are emotionally invested to the idea of these beautiful deflections to a beautiful God. It causes them to have to actually stop and think about what they're doing. They have to reconcile this God of the happy, clappy, gold medal, warm, fuzzy spirituality to the God who would do nothing to help a child on a damaged amusement park ride. So they're married to the idea of the God of rainbows and parking spaces and chance encounters with random people that they haven't seen in 20 years, and God must have brought them into their lives and all those beautiful, happy, clappy, coincidental type things. The God who's essentially fed every day by pattern seekers who see every coincidental occurrence and every second of good fortune as divine and a blessing because it's so undeserved. We just don't deserve it. It's goodness. It must be God. It's more than I deserve, so glory be to God. This is how they think. Glory to God for this food we're about to eat that somebody else prepared, while so many others tragically starve to death. Thank you for blessing us, Lord. Thank you for blessing me while so many other people remain wanting. Thanks for making me look good, Lord, while so many others out there do not look good. Thanks for the stuff that I worked so hard to earn or was given by another human being or made or built or designed or developed or found on my own, especially when there are so many others on this planet who will spend their whole lives with absolutely nothing. Thank you, Jesus. Yes, it makes me crazy. And I'll admit it's a hot button with me. It's a hot button. It just causes me to physically blanch. I've mentioned previously on many occasions those who receive the benefit of the help of others. Somebody else gives good advice, or someone else jumps in to help solve a problem or adds their expertise. It's like these relatives we've talked about who spend the days in the hospital under the doctor's care, and then they ignore the doctor when they go on Facebook and praise Jesus. Makes me crazy. It's kind of a hot button with me, and I'll admit it. And people, religious people, have been selling this lie that it's egotistical somehow to give credit where credit is due. Usain Bolt is not a superlative athlete. He's not the fastest man alive because of magic. It's because he is an extraordinary talent. It's because of a tremendous work ethic and commitment to the sport. It's because of his trainers and supporters. his love of running, the placing of his own shoes on that track on the world stage. It's cause and effect. Simone Biles isn't a 3-time gold medalist this year because Jesus is aligning her on the balance beam. It's because she had the chops. It's because she sharpened her own abilities over most of her 19 years, and she earned that place in the spotlight. That's not egotistical. I mean, there's no evidence at all that Jesus, or a Catholic priest, was in the pool with Katie Ledecky when she obliterated the world record in the 800-meter freestyle. Did you see that race? She was like 5 or 6 lengths in front of the second-place swimmer. It was crazy. Ledecky trained for it. She worked for it. She had the talent for it. She earned it. It's hers. And I think we as human beings have to stop cheating ourselves out of the recognition of human accomplishment. And without being off-putting or egotistical, I think we should be able to see those moments of success in our lives, and we see them as personal victories. Victories for ourselves, victories for others, brought about by our own commitment and with the support of flesh and blood human beings all around us. I guess that's what the message is for this broadcast today, just sort of an extended monologue about the Olympics as it wraps up its second week. Now, you can call the Olympics a huge waste of time and money, and in some ways, you'd probably have a point. Call it a distraction from other more important, more critical things on the world stage. I'd have a hard time arguing against that. But for those of us who, have enjoyed it, who have enjoyed the meeting of nations at the Olympic Games, who enjoy seeing these athletes at the top of their game, who've committed their whole lives and finally get to show their stuff, to show what they're worth, to show what they're about, to compete against the best of the best. For those of us who enjoyed the distraction and the competition and the stories about the losses and the victories and the people behind them, it has been an interesting and I think a very exciting couple of weeks. Most amazing, though, for me, is the revelation again of what human beings can accomplish when they really put their minds and their bodies to the task. No magic, no superstition, no gods required. Thanks for listening. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. thethinkingatheist.com.